Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my 2025 review of the LEGO Star Wars Coruscant Gunship. This is set number 75354, and it was released just over 2 years ago on September 1st, 2023. Its target demographic is for ages 9 and up and has a total of 1,083 pieces. At the time, it retailed for $180 Canadian, $140 USD, and 130 euros. It does have a price per brick of about 17 cents per brick in Canadian dollars, and the box dimensions are 48 centimeters by 38 centimeters by 7 centimeters. And like always, before we do continue this video, if you do want to enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And with all that, let's jump into this review right away. So normally when I do these review videos, I always like to start off with my first impressions of actually building this set. I really feel like that sets the tone for the overall review video, and most importantly, just gives you the first impressions of what I felt going ahead and actually building this set. So I built this set this past weekend, and it took me about 4 hours to build. This set did come with 5 stickers, but no printed pieces. I was a little bit surprised by that, but after building the set, you kind of realize that there wasn't really many opportunities to put printed pieces. And I think the 5 stickers was actually reasonable in this case here. It does come with 1 booklet, and it did have 200 pages. And then overall, I think I had about like 10 or 15 extra pieces. I always forget to actually count in the end, but you know, at the end of each bag, you end up having like 1 or 2 random like Technic pieces that's like left over. My first impressions of actually building this set is I loved it. It was a great combination of using Technic builds as well as just the overall like sturdiness of the ship. It felt like building like a space shuttle, if that makes sense. And my favorite thing is actually the lifting mechanism for the ship itself. It was something that I did not expect, and it was funny when I was building bags 1 and 2, I was like, what is the purpose of this hook that you end up building out of Technic pieces? I feel like more ships should have this device because it's so easy to hold the gunship so that you can display nicely or even potentially hang it. But before we go ahead and talk about the gunship itself and all the details, the pros and cons that I felt going ahead and building this set, I want to talk about the minifigures because I know that it's extremely controversial nowadays with Star Wars Lego minifigures, so we have to jump in and start talking about that one right away. So this Lego set came with 5 minifigures, and fortunately 3 of them are actually exclusive to this set. The 5 minifigures are Padme Amidala, Commander Fox, 2 clone shock troopers, and Emperor Palpatine. So the first minifigure we're going to look at is Padme Amidala. So starting from the top of this minifigure, she's got a brown ponytail hairpiece. This does look custom to the Lego minifigure itself because I haven't actually seen a ponytail that looks like this. I do really like it because it is very similar to Padme's hairstyle in the anime Clone Wars series. So this minifigure does have a dual molded headpiece. Her first facial expression is a more neutral facial expression. I do like it because it is a more neutral political facial expression, which is probably like the proper face that she would normally have when she's like in the Senate. The second one is a more angrier or more intense face. What I like about this one is that I think it works well with the overall outfit because in season 1, episode 4 of Star Wars The Clone Wars, Padme does go actually on a mission, and she later is rescued by Anakin, and during the whole episode there are a lot of intense moments, so I feel like having a transition between more of a neutral face to a more intense face actually ends up working. On the topic of the animated series, this is one of the outfits that Padme is actually wearing in that episode, and it does actually look very similar to it. 2 comments that I have is I really like the vest jacket that they have on her torso printing piece. I actually think the details is enough for a Lego minifigure printing, and it definitely looks very similar to what you see in the animated series. And the second comment I'll have is that the brown hand pieces on the Lego minifigure are as if she is wearing gloves. I also think that is accurate, and I do like that little detail rather than just having like skin colored hand piece. So the last part about this minifigure that I like is her accessory. So in this case here, she's got her blaster gun. I do like the fact that they made this gun silver and they actually made it different from Commander Fox's typical pistol. So like the commanders always end up wielding like the dual pistol similar to like Captain Rex. And I do like the fact that this one is a different model of the gun. You'll notice that there's kind of like a scope on top of the gun, which is very similar to the live action movie version of her pistol. I can't actually remember if they show it in the Clone Wars animated series, but they definitely show it in the movies. Then on top of that as well too, I like the fact that it is a different molded weapon versus Commander Fox's. I think just having that little detail, especially for having an exclusive minifigure, is nice. Moving on to the second exclusive minifigure in this Lego set, this is Emperor Palpatine. The only comment I have is I feel like the color choice that was used is a little bit weird. His arm should not be like this dark reddish brown. It should be more of the red, and I think the colors are inverted. Right now they're shown as more like a dark brown or a dark reddish, and realistically, especially in the Clone Wars adaptation, his arms are the exact same color as kind of his vest and robes that he would normally wear, which is that red color. I do like his hairpiece though. I think it looks very similar to what you actually see in episode 2, episode 3 of the movies at least. Definitely when it comes to the animation, don't really think it really resembles it as much just because of the color. I feel like it should be like a little bit more on the grayer side. That's just my opinion because this is a little bit more blonde. Now this minifigure does have a dual molded headpiece, so you got one more of like a resting face. I don't know, I'm gonna call it a political face, I don't really know. And then the other one one on the back end is like kind of him smiling that's angry. Overall though, I don't think the overall minifigure is bad whatsoever. I do think Padme's is better, but I think there's a couple small things about this minifigure that could have been done a little bit differently. Moving on to the third exclusive minifigure to the set. This is Commander Fox. Now, I actually think the minifigure is a solid minifigure. I have a couple of small critiques with this one. I like the fact that he has his signature red helmet. He's got his signature gray visor and everything that goes with it. Commander Fox is obviously a very significant character in the Star Wars universe because he is literally the leader of the shock troopers, or in this case here, like the Galactic Empire unit that lives on Coruscant. Now, when it comes to his headpiece, he does have the exact same headpiece as the other shock troopers in this case here. That makes sense because they're all clone troopers. It would be weird if they didn't have the same thing. I can't remember if Commander Fox does have any scars, because the only thing I'm thinking about right now is like Echo or Captain Rex. I think they both have scars on their face, but I don't think Commander Fox does. So, but even if he did, I'm okay with them having the same face. You don't need to make a custom printing face unless it's something significant, like Echo looks completely different. So like if you're going to print Echo, you should make him look completely different than having like the same clone trooper face, for example. So when it comes to Commander Fox's torso printing, as well as his leg printings, I do like the fact that they are dual molded on the leg part and then the top. I like the actual detail of it. I don't think there's really needs to be any differences for the torso piece compared to other clone troopers in this case here, just because they are pretty much the same, like the armor that they're wearing. They should add a little bit more white on the top of his shoulders, or at least have some sort of like emblem that shows the differentiation between him and like the other troopers. I understand they probably took the easy way out and just basically let the arms be printed red instead of, for example, the shock troopers, which have white printed arms in this case here. Overall, I don't dislike this minifigure character. It's unfortunate they got rid of waist caves and they're probably never going to bring them back, but I think he's a solid minifigure. He's a good minifigure, but I'm going to rank him just a little bit below Palpatine in this case here. And then finally, the other two minifigures we get that are not exclusive to the set, I think they're in 3 other sets. There's like polybags. I think they're also in the 2024 battle pack, and I think that might be it. Is basically the shock troopers. You do get 2 of them in this set, which is not that bad. They're literally the exact same. I think the overall design for these clone troopers are relatively good. Again, similar comment I'd have to Commander Fox is like the arm printing could have been done like a little bit differently, but I get it. These are basic shock troopers. You got to save money somewhere. I think they're solid minifigures for this set as well. And I overall, when I look at all 5 of these minifigures, I am relatively impressed by all of them. I think they all suit the set very well, except for one of them. And that one is actually Padme, who was the best minifigure in this set. I personally think that this minifigure should have been replaced with somebody else. When I look at this set, I think of just Palpatine, just his clone trooper or his clone trooper / shock trooper bodyguards, whatever you want to call them. And I think it should have been another politician that's always with Palpatine. This is what this set reminds me of. And that's why I'm surprised they put Padme. What I think they should have done instead was include like Mas Amida, who is always by Palpatine's side. I think having that minifigure instead of Padme in this set would have been a better representation for the purpose of this gunship. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the actual building of this set. I have to say it was so much fun to build this. I have about 3 notable highlights I do want to talk about. The first one is the overall sturdiness of this ship. You can play with this, you can display with this, and especially now with a lot of the controversy with some of the new Star Wars sets, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like some of them are a little bit fragile, so it's one of those things to see a set that was made 2 years ago be very sturdy. I haven't had any issues with like pieces falling apart, and the fact that they give you like this Technic hook piece is what I'm going to call it, to basically hold it properly and like move it around and stuff, I think is unbelievable. For me, that's a really, really good design quality in this. Second notable runner-up for me that really stood out for me is the 360 guns at the front. Now, this is a Coruscant gunship, so it's based off of like the LAAT, which is the low altitude assault transport gunships. Now, these were predominantly used during the Clone Wars battles. Everyone knows the famous scene on the Battle of Genosha when it's basically flying in and dropping off clone troopers. I like the fact that they kept the 360 guns at the front because I think it's like the coolest part of the build, or one of the coolest parts. And I like the fact that they replaced like the man gunners on the side of the wings for just basic blasters, because of the fact that it gives it a play feature. Otherwise, I don't think you really get that play feature that LEGO always wants to include when it comes into these sets. And that's something that I think was a good replacement in this case here, is adding more of those play guns. The third notable thing for me, which I was very surprised about, was actually the space inside of the gunship itself. Now, obviously, this is meant to be like a transport vehicle for clone troopers. That was the original purpose of the LAATs. In this case here, I don't have that many clone troopers. I'm trying to get more, but I'm pretty sure you could probably fit like 20 clone troopers in this thing easily. There's a tremendous amount of space in there, and I do like that, because if you're ever going to build a set and you want to, bring Palpatine, you'd probably bring a full army with him, just as his bodyguards in this case here. And then just a couple runner-up things that I liked about this overall design was the engine design. It kind of reminded me a little bit of a rocket ship, which makes sense. It's an engine. It's just a giant rocket in this case here. I like the sleekness of it. I like the minimalistic of the studs that are showing, and I think it was a really well done in the end. The 2 other things for me was just more the side panels. It sounds weird saying that, but I like the fact that you can have it fully closed and then partially opened and then fully open. So those are all my kind of pros I want to talk about for the set. I think those are the big things that really stood out for me. I guess the other thing too is I did really like the color choice. I like the fact that this is a Coruscant gunship, and you can tell this is a customized. And actually, this is kind of going to lead into the design flaws, because it's like the first question I think a lot of people have is like, what is really the purpose of this ship, and like why did Lego make this gunship to begin with? But for me, when I think about Coruscant gunship, I am thinking about the Coruscant guards. I am thinking about Commander Fox. Their whole team is red. You know, you have a dark red ship that goes with it. I think the color combination works great. Now, with that being said, though, that's the first question I want to ask. Let's talk about design flaws that goes with this. What is actually the purpose of this ship? So I think if you actually compare this to like real life transport vehicles, think of it like this. In the US, the President of the United States will fly on Air Force One. It's basically a giant Boeing 747 or whatever it is, and they've souped it out to have like these insane features inside there. They've got nice rooms, they've got lounges, they've got missiles on it. They've got, it's a decked out insane aircraft. In this case here, they took a typical gunship and they like stripped down all the weapons, but then kept the interior the exact same. If you're Emperor Palpatine, who's in this case you can argue is like the head of the Republic in this at this point too, should be flying like a high class vehicle to getting around all across Coruscant. When you're just traveling in like a military guard vehicle, it seems odd that you basically have to stand there and you don't get any of that lounge space that goes with it. I feel like when it comes to like, if you're trying to make this ship to be like that Air Force One, I don't think it hits it. I think if you're trying to make this ship more so for like specifically the Coruscant guards, and it just so happens that Palpatine is just thrown into this mix because he needs to go somewhere, but it's also more specifically for the Coruscant guards, and like this is their custom ships to just fly along Coruscant, because that's what the whole point of them are, is for like low altitude, then this ship makes sense. It's just basically a customized version for specifically Coruscant for like the guards to patrol. And the reason why I bring up both versions of it is because they include Palpatine as a minifigure. If they didn't, and it was literally just Commander Fox and some clone troopers and that was it, it would be like, oh, I wouldn't even ask that question. But because Palpatine's in it, I would assume that he would use this vehicle. So it was a little bit of a weird flaw, because I would have expected more details in the interior, but then at the same time, like how much is too much detail for a model like this, where kind of need to make a choice. Is this a military transport vehicle, or is this a personalized vehicle for Palpatine? So it's just something to think about at least. So overall, when I do look at this ship though, it is a realistic clone trooper gunship. I definitely feel like it does resemble a lot of what you would see in like the animated series, as well as like in the movies when you're talking about the Clone Wars era. And I think the ship itself is a really unique idea. I actually think the concept of this idea is really good. I like the fact that they've simplified a typical gunship for one that would just work on Coruscant. And it makes sense because Coruscant has all of Commander Fox's troops. Like that's the whole point of his guard in this case there, is to basically patrol all of Coruscant as well as protect the Jedi Temple. I think when it comes to like looking at the gunship and its practicality in the universe, it does make sense, and I do really like it in the end. So yeah, overall, when it does come to final thoughts about this set, I do actually enjoy it. I definitely think it's one of my more favorite Star Wars sets I've actually built to date. I love the details when it comes to the overall ship. I love the panel detail. I love the color choice. I love the color combination between having the red, the white, and then also some areas where it looks like the paint's kind of been chipped off, where they have the gray showing on some of the panels. I really like the details, and I love the overall build itself. It was a great set, and again, I want to reiterate that like the best part is the fact that they made this set durable. They made a Technic component that allows you to properly hold this model. I like the fact that they took the time to make a durable Star Wars set, especially with a lot of the new sets that have come out and their issues that they've had from a design perspective. It's really nice to see a set from 2 years ago still hold those qualities and standards that maybe nowadays people are a little bit concerned that Lego has maybe not owned up to what their quality should be when it comes to some of these Lego Star Wars sets. So yeah, that's my 2025 review of the Lego Coruscant Guard gunship. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of this set. I haven't built any other gunships from Star Wars, so this is my first build. I definitely think it was a lot of fun, and I love the overall selection of minifigures, and I love what I was actually able to build at the end, and I'm very happy with this. And with all that, I'll see you guys back here next time for a brand new video.